So there's coffee, there is some food. Well, very good afternoon to everybody. Thanks for coming, I appreciate that. Today Suraj is going to defend his doctoral dissertation on basically looking into interface between blueberries and pine plantations and land use change and social, environmental and economic aspect of all the things which are happening in South Georgia. Many of you do not know, but blueberries in Georgia, they are basically erstwhile pine land. So it was an interesting topic. So I requested Suraj to start focusing on this topic, and so far he has done a good job. So today is the day when he presents, and we will decide whether he is eligible for a PhD or not. Hopefully, yes, but we will see. So one thing I want to definitely say, not one thing, let's say two things. So Suraj came to me from University of Kentucky, where he did his master's. He got a very glowing recommendation from his master's advisor, so I thought to bring him here under ICON, and he was very interested on ICON type of issues, so I thought it will be a good fit, and thanks to CICR for funding his education for first 3 years, I appreciate that. And second thing, which is very important thing, Suraj is the epitome of resiliency. The reason is that when he started here, because he has a lot of family obligations way back in Nepal, so he attended those things. Then his parents got in trouble because of health issues. Then he basically went from here, took care of that one. And third thing is that recently, as I don't know how many of you know, he was robbed. And I thought, and at that time he was writing his dissertation. I thought, oh my God, this is a terrible time. It's always a bad time when you're robbed. But it becomes even more terrible when you're writing your dissertation. Then we discussed, and he said, no, he wants to graduate in April, and he will do his best to figure it out. And I'm so glad to announce that he has already published his first paper in agricultural system. Second paper is in advanced stages of reviews, and third paper he is going to submit soon. So I'm very impressed with the progress that he has made over 4 years, and he has come a long way as a researcher, as a student, as a practitioner, as a human being who appreciates the importance of research, especially in these big land-grant universities. So with this, Suraj, thanks for being here, and I have enjoyed working with you, and I'm looking forward to your presentation.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Dwivedi, for this introduction. First of all, I want to thank my committee members, Dr. Jeff from Warnell, Sarizar from Warnell, Dr. Marin from Geography, and Dr. Fonsa is joining us from Tifton via video. And I'd like to thank you, all of you, for being here to support me and then witness what I did for 4 years, whether I spent CICR money perfectly or not. So today, for 30-40 minutes, I'm going to talk about what's happening with the blueberry and forestry dynamics here. Especially like keep it green or make it blue. So here blue means for blueberry. Understanding the dynamics of land use change and its impacts on ecosystem service in the context of deforestation due to blueberry expansion in southern Georgia, USA. So today I will cover 4 chapters. First chapter will be introduction, so I will give you a real introduction of what's going on with the land use change in a global scale, in a state scale, and then I will talk about the 3 individual chapters, and then I will conclude with the overall conclusion and future trajectories. So, as we all know that human beings are converting from one land use to other for different purpose using different tools, such as like primitive tools, fire, thousands of years. But currently, in a recent year, the extension of land use change have been increased a lot. And then, as you see in the figure, like forest land have been decreased, and the agriculture land, cropland, and pastoral land have been increased. And then, yes, the land use change is happening, and then the change in land cover is significant in this time period. And then when we look into the state in the US, in the country level, as the land use is not static, it's dynamics, and then conversion from one land use, especially forestry to agriculture or agriculture to forestry, is increasing. And as you see here, yellow is more than 5% net shift from forest land to cropland, and then green is 5% net shift from cropland to forest land. So it was between 1982 to 1997. So it's a historical pattern. But when we looked into the recent pattern, agricultural land have been increased a lot at the expenses of CRP land. And then forest land, as we see in the country level, forest land have been increased, but when we look into the state level, forest land have been decreased between 1974 to year 2008 in Georgia. So the land use change is happening not only in a global scale, but in a local scale also. And then out of that, for deforestation is the major land use change, and we are losing 3.3 million hectares of forest globally per year. And then in US between 1990 to 2010, the rate of deforestation was 0.38 million hectares per year. And then the forestry is one of our important natural resources because lots of people, more than 80% of people's livelihood globally depends upon the forest in different aspects. And then when we look into the drivers of deforestation, okay, the deforestation is one of the major land use, but what are the causes behind the deforestation? And then Jess and Lambin suggested two major causes, proximate causes and underlying causes. Underlying causes are like demographic factors like population, migration, economic factors like market growth, price increase, and policy and institutional factors. But these underlying causes triggers the proximate causes such as infrastructure extension, agriculture expansion, wood extraction. And out of these different causes, agriculture expansion is the major causes of deforestation. More than 80% of the deforestation that happens globally is because of the agriculture. And then Lambin et al. 2001 said that in 1700 there were the agricultural land was around 300 to 400 million hectares only. But within the time period of 1990, the agricultural land increased to 15 to 1800 million hectares. And then 55% of agriculture, 55% of deforestation that happens, or 55% of new agricultural land is because of the primary forest. And then in Georgia, as you see here, we are also seeing lots of land use change happening. Specifically, we are losing land to agriculture, forest land to agriculture, but the gain from agriculture to forest land is decreasing. As you see in the figure, green is gain from agriculture, so the land converted into agriculture, but the rate of return from agriculture to forest land is decreasing, and then loss to agriculture is increasing. So here, like, we are losing forest permanently, and this is the time where we have to do something. And then blueberry comes in the picture here because forest land is converting into agriculture, and then Georgia is very suitable for blueberry production. And then in between 2000, like, the blueberry industry was booming over here, and between 2010 to 2017, as you see here, more than 15,000 hectares of forest land and hay pasture land was converted into blueberries. Here, the hay pasture is more than forest land, but the thing is that when they converted hay pasture land to agriculture, there is no chance of getting back to forestry. So that's why, like, we are losing that combined land of 1,500 hectares to the permanent blueberry or agriculture. And then as we said that expansion of agriculture is affecting deforestation, or deforestation is increasing. Forest is a very important ecosystem, very important ecosystem services. It provides more or less all 4 types of ecosystem services, ranging from supporting services like nutrient cycling, habitat provisioning, regulating services, cultural services, and then provisioning services such as food, water. So, like, when deforestation happens, then these different ecosystem services are in risks that we are getting from forest-based ecosystem services. So we have to do something. Land is changing, agriculture is expanding, we are losing forest area, and then as forest area provides lots of ecosystem services, we need to come up with some solution. And then these land use change have been central to the sustainability debate. And then from the environmental perspective, the debate of sustainability from environmental perspective have been changed to the holistic approach, where, like, we have to consider all these environment, social, and economic aspect of the land use change. And at the same time, what makes it important understanding land use change is the number 15 Sustainable Development Goal, which is life on land. To sustain the life on land and providing all those benefits that people get from land, we need to consider land use change from the holistic approach. And then FAO suggested 8 actions, and one of them is integrated land use planning to halt deforestation through agricultural expansion. As integrated land use planning is one of the major actions that FAO suggested, as I already said, that the relationship between land use change, ecosystem service, and human well-being is complex. Looking it through one lenses is not enough, and at the same time, land use change happens in a different scale. So it is very important to study it on the multi-scale, from regional scale to local scale. So I tried to put it my study on the broader integrative questions of understanding the distinct spatio-temporal patterns of deforestation and exploring relationship between environmental, social, and economic, which are normally called as the 3 pillars of sustainability factors behind deforestation for ensuring sustenance and maintenance of ecosystem services at the landscape level. With that, my second chapter, or the first paper, or the first objective of my dissertation, but the second chapter is the role and potential of blueberry farming in increasing deforestation in southern Georgia, United States. As I already mentioned, that more than 15,000 hectares of forest land and hay pasture have been converted into blueberry, and then the return from blueberry to forestry is not happening. One normal instance that I can tell you is that when I talk with the people who are growing blueberries, I ask them, some people are already converting into other land cover. I said, do you want to go back to forestry? Then they said that we are already converting into olive or something else. So like there is no chance of converting back to forestry, but they might not continue the blueberry, but blueberry is mediating step or medium step that will go to the another land use. So this dynamics is happening, and then Georgia is perfect for us to see these dynamics, like how agricultural expansion is affecting deforestation, particularly the cash crops such as blueberry. And then I put this chapter in this theoretical framework where suggested by Mendelssohn, where it says that if there is increase in blueberry or demand of blueberry, then landowners will start looking for more land, and then that land has to come through the forest land. So at the expenses of forest land, if the blueberry expansion happen, it will happen at the expansion of forest land. So this study area, it covers 17 counties in District 5 of Georgia Forestry Commission. It is the major producer of blueberries. At the same time, large number of wood consuming mills are here. So forestry is also major over there, and at the same time, this area is very good for blueberry production, or is a major producer of blueberries. So not other area will be better than this area to study what I want to study. So for the profitability analysis, for this chapter, I looked from 2 perspectives, geospatial and economic aspect. So the first aspect is to look into profitability or compare the profitability between different allopine species such as longleaf pine, loblolly pine, and slash pine, and then blueberry. So for allopine, I got the growth and yield models, and then I put that with the allopine budget, like how much fertilizers and everything, all those budget costs, and then calculate the net present values, annualized net present values, and benefit cost ratio. And at the same, with the blueberry also, we got a blueberry yield from Georgia Extension, and then got a blueberry budget from Dr. Fonsa, and then we combine that and then calculate the same thing, normal NPV, ANPV, and benefit cost ratio. And then for the suitability analysis, I use the geospatial model where I use the different factors that are responsible for land to be suitable for blueberry, such as like chilling hours, which is like the time periods between October 1 to February 15, when the temperature is less than 5 degrees Celsius. So for the land to be suitable for blueberries, it has to have more than 600 hours of chilling hours. And then soil pH, the land should be between 4.4 to 5 of soil pH, and then permeability 15 to 50 centimeters per hour, and then the land should be well drained. So I use those all different layers and then use that in GIS, and then with the weighted overlay, I got a suitable like how much land is suitable for blueberry production in these 17 counties in southern Georgia. So the result shows that the blueberry retains higher profitability. When you look into the annualized net present values, why I use the annualized net present value is that the blueberries rotation is like 12 years or 13 years, but the longleaf or loblolly pine or yellow pine's rotation is different, like 24 years or 20 years. So there is exclusively time difference between these two projects. So in order to compare them, NPV will be not enough because we are comparing two different projects with two different time periods. So to put that in a common sense, we did the annualized net present value, which specifically brought down that NPV of different time period to the year comparison. So the blueberry ANPV will be 4,107 per hectare, while loblolly pine is out of 3 yellow pine species, longleaf, slash, and loblolly is higher benefit. And then when we simulate it, like there is no chance of getting negative, or there is no chance of losing money from investing in the forestry, but there is likelihood of 11% likelihood of getting negative returns on the blueberry, as you see here. And you see here, like there is a chance of getting a negative return, but in a yellow pine, all 3 species, this green is loblolly, and then blue is slash, and then black is yellow. So loblolly returns the higher benefit, but there is no chance of getting negative return from investing on pine. And then when we did the sensitivity analysis, different factors affect profitability in a different sense. So the price of blueberry was highly sensitive to the profitability, but the discount rate is negatively affecting the profitability for all 3 yellow pine and blueberry. But with the blueberry, effect of discount rate is less than effect of discount rate on other yellow pine species. And then when you see like pine straw, if we are growing longleaf, and if we add pine straw, then we will get higher benefit from planting longleaf than other species. But when we are just doing for the saw timber, loblolly is better than longleaf or slash. And then addition of hunting lease, because these landowners are private landowners, so they will try to maximize the profit, and then they will see different avenues of getting profit. So they can also participate, or they can also lease their land for hunting. And then if they add hunting on their land, or if they allow people to hunt on their private land, then slash pine, if the area is with slash pine, then they will get a little bit more benefit than other 2 yellow pine. And then this is the suitability map for blueberry production in southern Georgia. So the suitability model shows that more than 99% of the land is either highly suitable or medium suitable for blueberry production. And this is the Okefenokee area, and these are the area which are either conserved or protected area. And then we overlaid the existing land use land cover under this suitability map, and then see like how it interacts with the current land use, specifically mixed forest, evergreen forest, cultivated lands, and hay pasture. And as you can see from the figure, like evergreen forest like dominates the area, and then it overlaps a lot with blueberry suitability, and which shows that more than 85% of current evergreen forest lies under the high suitability of blueberry production, which shows that it implies that because of the high profit from blueberry, and then the land that is suitable for blueberry production is high in this area, there is a high chance of landowners converting their forest land into blueberries, because they already have the suitable land, and then they already know that blueberry returns higher profit than yellow pine or doing any 3 pine species. So there is a highly likelihood of conversion of their forest land into blueberry from the perspective of economic and geospatial or suitability model. And then this implies that we need a integrated land use planning, which is also I already explained, and then also like coordinated forest agriculture land use policies, because we are talking from the perspective of forestry and then from the perspective of agriculture. there's a big market of blueberries and there's a big market of forestry, but we have to sustain both of them in order to achieve that 3 pillars of sustainability. So there should be a coordination between both agencies of sector, forestry and agriculture. And as I told, like investment in blueberry yields more profit than planting alpines. And then geospatial suitability model suggests that adequate land is suitable for blueberry production. Because of this, there is a high chance of conversion from forest land to blueberry. And in order to halt that, there are lots of incentives programs like cash-based incentive programs or monetary-based incentive programs in developing or underdeveloped countries, such as payment for ecosystem services or rate like reducing emission from forest degradation and deforestation. But we need to come up with some sort of incentive programs that will give a profit or cash to the landowner so that they will remain within the forest land use. Like they can do a CRP or payment for wetland system or something like that, which is based on the market. Then we will be able to halt deforestation because of agricultural expansion in southern Georgia. This paper is, as Dr. Dwivedi mentioned, this paper has been already published in agricultural system. So if you want to know more or criticize more or complain more or whatever, please go there and then download it and then let us know. And then my third chapter is Forest Land to Blueberries, Assessing Implications for Habitat Quality in Alabaha River Watershed in southern Georgia, United States. The paper is currently under review at land use policy, and then we hope like we will get review within a few weeks, I think like sometime soon. So I mentioned earlier, Georgia is the prime blueberry producer, and then in 2014, it was the largest blueberry producer in the US among all 50 states. And then it supplies more than 16% of total blueberry production. And then more than 14,000 hectares of blueberry is currently under, 14,000 hectares of land is currently under blueberry. And then in 2000, just to get in perspective, in 2000, there was only 1,860 hectares of blueberry land, but within the 17 years, it have increased like many folds. And then the land use and ecosystem services, again, like you come back to the same thing, like because deforestation is the major land use, agricultural expansion is the major land use, and then the effects of deforestation on ecosystem service are well studied in a regional and in a global scale from the perspective of different ecosystem services like habitat quality or water supply or water quality, and they have studied more or less in a different scale, but they haven't studied on a regional or in a finer scale at watershed level or whatever. And then it is very important to understand or study land use change dynamics in regional or local scale, because the accumulation of local scale land use change affects the global scale, and then that significantly affects the global environmental process. So in order to understand and halt the global effects, we need to come up with results and study from the local scale with a finer scale. So the objective of my third chapter is to model land use change dynamics in the study area and assess impacts of land use change on habitat quality, which is proxy of biodiversity. This watershed, earlier I did a suitability analysis with 17 counties and then brought that down to the watershed level, which covers 6 counties: Appling, Bacon, Coffee, Jeff Davis, Pierce, and Ware. These are the counties which have a high blueberry suitable land from my earlier first chapters. And then this is within the Satilla River Basin, which is one of the major watershed for agriculture and then forestry and everything. So this is the perfect place for me to see how land use change have been happening, and then how that is going to affect the biodiversity in future. So to fulfill the objectives, I use different software with using the data, specifically Landsat Thematic Mapper for 2006, 2010, 2015, and 2017. And then I use a training data using NAIP imagery, field data, and then I use a crop escape data, and then Google Earth to verify my model, and then at the same time, when I classified the image, I did accuracy assessment using either NAIP imagery, which is 1 meter resolution, or field work with what you call that. I traveled to the field and then got a GPS point of the different land use over there, and then used that to get accuracy metrics. And then after I got these different land cover maps for different years, I put that on LCM, Land Change Modeler of TerraSet, which is a suite developed by Clark Lab, and then project that for the future of 2022 and 2030. And then with those produced land cover map, I use a habitat quality model of INVEST, which is integrated valuation of ecosystem service and trade-offs, which is highly used in ecosystem services today, and then use that to see how the land cover or land use change really affects on the habitat quality. So as I mentioned earlier, I did a field visit. So what I did with a field visit is that after I created the land cover map, I extracted more than 600 points randomly on that area, and then drove to individual points I put that on my GPS and phone, and then drove to the individual points, and then note down what is that land cover really on that ground, and then came back, and then I compared that with my produced map, and then got the accuracy assessment. So the result shows that I got a good accuracy, more than 89% for all different years. And then for the prediction model, I got 89% of accuracy model. So I used 2006, 10, and 15 as an input layers, and then 2017 to verify my model. So what I did was that I used this 2006, 10, 15 land cover map, which was produced using Landsat image, and then I created 2017 using the same data, and then I predict from using 2006, 10, 15 to 2017, which is predicted map, and then I have already prepared map, and then I compared that, and then I also compared the model using the field data, whether my prediction is highly accurate or not. And then when I looked into how land use is changing, in 2006, in early stage, the land was highly dominated by forestry, so more than 30% of the area was forestry. But as time goes on, like in 2017, the area was dominated by blueberry, and then the prediction model shows that from 2015 to 2030, the blueberry area will increase between 3 to 13%, and then the agricultural land will decrease, forest land will decrease by 4 to 5% between this time period. And then as you see here, in evergreen forests have been decreased over the time period, and then blueberry have been increased over the time period. When I say blueberry, it's like, it's not the blueberry, it's a blueberry orchard. So blueberry orchard have been increased, and then evergreen and apacer have been decreased significantly over the time period. And then the prediction model also shows that it will decrease in future to between 2022 and 2030. And then I use those individual produced map in INVEST, and then assess the habitat quality. So here, habitat quality is, from the broader perspective, it's a proxy to biodiversity. But when I was putting an input for it, I was taking care of gopher tortoise in mind, because it's one of the endangered species, protected species over there. But in general, what we say is that if the area is forest, then it's a good habitat. If the area is apacer, it's a good habitat. But if it's a developed area or other area, then it's not good habitat. So when the result of INVEST habitat model shows that the mean habitat quality or average habitat quality values decrease significantly over the time period. And then in future also, from the predicted map, we saw that it will decrease significantly. And what we got from this habitat quality result is that the low habitat quality land or pixels were dominated or were more found on the area which have a high change, specifically from deforestation, or where the land have been increased to agriculture. That's the place where we have got high number of low habitat quality. And then to see the different scenario, we use the 2030A and 2030B, two different scenarios. Scenario A is expansion in blueberry twice. So we want to see what will happen if the the rate of blueberry expansion increased by twofold, what will happen in the future. And then it shows that blueberry will expand by 7% if the expansion rate increased by twofold. And then the forest land and hay pasture will decline by 5%. And then habitat quality will decline by 10%, meaning habitat quality will decline by 10% overall. And then for the scenarios B, blueberry expansion by fourfolds, and then the blueberry, if the rate of blueberry expansion increased by fourfolds, then by 2030, we will get more than 23% of blueberry land, and then habitat quality will decrease significantly. So after that, I classified these habitat quality into different classes, and then no habitat, low, moderate, and high, and then see like how land have been converted from the perspective of habitat quality. So the green color, the green is a high. So the land, when along the time period, as the time increases, land is changing. So we are getting less high habitat quality area, but the no habitat or low habitat quality area have been increasing or will increase in the future because of the land use change. So this will give an idea where to prioritize conservation activities for different land use policymakers or extension officers or land managers, so that they can say, okay, we need to focus on this area to protect biodiversity. So it will give a visual idea for the land managers, and it will also support policy making and land management strategies toward integrated land use planning. As I mentioned earlier, we need to consider both agriculture sector and forestry sector. So this sort of information will fit into that. And it is very important for ensuring continuance and enhancement of ecosystem service in the Alava River watershed, because this is one of the major river basin in Georgia, and at the same time, agriculture is high, forestry is high, and then we need to protect this area. With that, now I'm in my fourth chapter, which is third chapter, but in a presentation it's my fourth chapter. Keep it blue or make it green, capturing motivations of family landowners for growing blueberries instead of pine in southern Georgia using Q methodology. In this chapter, what I tried to do is that try to see what are the motivations other than just economic. Generally, we'll say, oh yeah, landowners plant blueberries because they want to get more money. But knowing that is not enough. Lots of studies have been conducted. These land use change studies have been conducted from the perspective of Ricardian rent theory, which is like more or less like from the perspective of economic. But there are less number of studies that have studied from trying to study the intrinsic motivation of landowners' decision for adopting land use or landowners' decision for land use change. So why this study is important, because private forest landowners control a greater portion of forest land in the US, in the Georgia, and actually 179 million hectares of forest land in the US are owned by private forest landowners. And in the southern US, 86% of land is owned by private forest landowners. And in Georgia, 89% of the forest land is owned by private forest landowners. So their decision what they do for their land use will definitely affect the forest ecosystem services in Georgia. So it is very important to understand. And as I mentioned earlier, in between 2010 to 2017, private forest landowners converted more than 6,000 hectares of evergreen forest only into blueberries. So this is perfect place to see what are the different motivations for those landowners for converting from their existing pine forest into blueberries. And then we try to look it through the motivations of like economic, environmental, social, and political. By the way, like there are blueberries you can eat, and they are from Georgia. So as I mentioned earlier, we need to understand the psychological drivers of land use change, and lots of studies have been done understanding from the perspective of Ricardian rent, but we are trying to understand from the perspective of intrinsic motivations. So the objective of this chapter is what motivates landowners to grow blueberries in place of pine in southern Georgia, and develop a typology of landowners based on their motivations. To do this, I use a Q methodology, which is the combined methods of qualitative and quantitative. It was originally developed for psychology sector, but later on recently it has been highly used in the natural resource sector. And then it actually happens in the 4 stages: Q sample, the statement, and then the P sample, which is the participants, and Q sorting and analysis, and I will discuss this individual step. So Q sample is more or less like, let's say it's a statement. So what we did is that we send an email to Georgia Blueberry Growers Association and then say that, ask them, okay, we are doing this research, are you interested on survey 10 minutes or 20 minutes? So I went to different landowners, drove more than 2,000 miles in southern Georgia, which I had never expected I would be doing. And then I surveyed more than 10 landowners to get their perspective, just for like a recce, to get statements like, okay, what are the different factors? What are the range of statements? Whether it is just the economy or like different landowners have a different range. So when I did that, and then with a literature review and a discussion with the extension people, I got 20 statements that represent the motivations of forest land conversion to blueberries or growing blueberries in Georgia. So the statements like, first statement is like, for me, forestry is a too long investment. So it's like how these statements are like how landowners will express their motivations or express what they think about why they converted or why they are growing blueberries. Like with the right financial incentives, I will convert my blueberry orchards into forestry. Or like the statement 20, markets for blueberry and blueberry products are easily available. So this is one of the important steps of Q method. And then after we finalize the Q statements, we have to choose the P sample or the participants who will sort those 20 statements. So we contacted the Georgia Blueberry Growers Association, and then we went to their annual meeting, and then we 34 participants, like growers, agreed to participate on our study. And then when we decided the participant, and then we have finalized the statement, so we went there and then asked them to sort those 20 statements along this Quasi-normal distribution grid. So what we did is that we asked them, we gave them 20 statements and then asked them to divide it into 2 parts after reading each and every, say that must agree and must disagree, 2 piles. And then after that, we asked them to sort it on this grid, okay, like strongly disagree or neutral or strongly agree. And then we allowed them to go through it again, and then if they want to change mind, like, oh, I want to change this or something like that. So we gave them enough time to look into their sorting. Like here, like one landowner, this is the actual sorting that done by one of my participants. And then he put 16 first, and then he was like, no, I want to change that to 8. And then again, like he was like, okay, let me put the 14. So the enough time was provided them to see whether they are happy with that sorting or not. After doing this 34 sorting, we use the PQ method, which is simple software or program. It's a Q-basic program. So we entered all those 34 statements and then did the principal component analysis. And then we got these 8 factors which have more than eigenvalue of more than 1. So we automatically flag them, and then we remove factors which are not significantly loaded by more than 2 or more than 2. As you see here in this figure, these X are like a loading of these statements to the factor. So if like we have got this more than 8 factors from here, which have eigenvalue more than 1, but we use only 4 factors because all these 8 factors were not loaded by 2 or more than 2 statements, or 2 or loaded by participants. So we got 4 factors. Let's say 1, 2, 3, 4. We name 1 as a family-oriented owners. So the PQ method will not give a family-oriented or opportunistic. It will give a statement that was significantly loaded on factor 1. So on the basis of those statements, from 20 statements, we have to come up with a common name for that factors. So for factor 1, we named it as a family-oriented, and for factor 2, it's opportunistic, factor 3, environmental cautious, and then factor 4, profit motivated. And these 4 factors explain 72% variance of our data. And then family oriented, the first factor, they grow blueberries as part of family legacy, and then they significantly loaded on, like, they grow blueberries as a retirement plan. And then they negatively says that for me, forest is a too long investment. So they negatively loaded on this statement. And then they said that you always have to choose between conservation and profits. Opportunistic landowners, which is factor 2, for them growing blueberry is better use of their land. So their opportunistic instances is shown from here, because they also see markets for blueberry and blueberry products are easily available than forestry. So they are like more opportunistic. Their opportunistic instances is reflected by their significant loading into these different factors. And then they see that rules and regulation, they don't see that more rules and regulation are important for development of blueberry production, because they are there just to get a profit or just to make a high money or just to see the value of the land. So they are more opportunistic. That's why they don't see like, oh, like, I'm not ready for lobbying or whatever to change the rules or regulation. I'm just here. If I'm not making money from here, I will change to something else. And then maybe like those are the landowners who are converting their blueberry lands into olive or grapes now. And then the third kind of landowners are environmental conscious landowners. So they are they converted forest land into blueberries, or they are growing blueberries, but still they value the forestry, or they value the importance of forest land. So moving forest land into blueberry orchards could potentially affect the local environment. So this is the only type of landowners who support this statement positively. Others didn't either support negatively or were neutral on this statement. And then they see a direct connection between deforestation and expansion of blueberry orchards. And then they feel good about supplying a crop with health benefits to local market. So yes, money is there, but at the same time, these are the other motivations that is encouraging them to grow blueberries or convert from forest land to blueberries. And then the last one is a profit motivated, where economy and market comes. So for them, forestry is too long investment, so it will take time to get them high profit. So they converted, or they are growing blueberries. And then they think that blueberry farmers benefit more from the reduced tax burdens than forest landowners. And then the timber market is riskier than blueberry market for these profit motivated landowners. And then they negatively loaded on, they don't think that they grow blueberries for the family legacy, like profit is everything for them. So forget about family or whatever, I'm just making money from these. Yeah. So doing by this, we can understand more, like what we can see is that not only economy or whatever, but there are other factors that affect the motivations of landowners to change land use or convert from one land use to another. And then the motivation range from economic, environmental, social, or political factors. And then I believe that these findings will be useful for policymakers and land managers in designing appropriate incentives and extension service for influencing and sustaining the forestry sector in Georgia and beyond. By saying this, like now, like the extension people or land managers can define a focus group extension activities. Like if their participants are environmental conscious, they might not have to talk a lot about benefits of environment, but some other factors. But if they are going to opportunistic owners or profit-motivated owners, then they might have to focus more on environmental benefits of the forestry or negative effects of blueberry cultivation. So this will definitely help on creating a good extension program and focusing to the target group, which will reduce the resources. Like we don't have to invest more money on like profit, more like going to environmental conscious landowners and then talk about the environmental benefits. So it will reduce the resource expense of money or resources. So from my chapter 2, I just compare the profitability between alpines and blueberry, but to get a broader picture, if I have the time, resources in future, I will compare between other competitive crops, not only blueberry, but other crops that compete with the forestry. And from chapter 3, I will convert, like I just looked into the habitat quality as a proxy of biodiversity, but there are lots of other ecosystem services which are highly sensitive to land use change. So I want to expand that and then see how land use change really affects other ecosystem services. And then from the chapter 4, we only look into the motivations of growing blueberries, but I will be interested to see how the growing blueberries instead of pine affects the socioeconomic landscapes of the area. Right now, we only look into what are the motivations, but like look into like how it will change the whole socio-ecological landscape of the area. And as a part of the icon, I try to talk as much as I can about my research. So I use whatever the resources are available, regardless of lots of limitations. Like I'm an international student, and then working in Southern Georgia was a little bit challenge for me because of the accent. And that was one of the major concerns Dr. Dwivedi had, like, maybe you might not be able to do this survey over there because they might not understand you. So there were lots of challenges for me, but regardless of those challenges, I was able to present the research in different forums. And at the same time, a year and a half ago, I created a dedicated Facebook page where I put all this information about benefits of forestry and everything over there, and then share with community. And I have a dedicated page on my personal website where I have put the results and everything of my research, and then already I have got more than 700 views on that page. With that, I like to thank my advisor committee, Dr. Dwivedi, believing on unknown person. I was unknown 4 years ago. And then Dr. Marin, Dr. Zev, Sir Isler, and Dr. Fonsa, who is joining us from Tifton. And then Georgia Blueberry Growers Association, which was very helpful for us because they participate on our survey, and then they allowed us to conduct survey during their annual meeting. Then College of Agriculture and Environmental Science, UGA, for extension and other data. And then Superior Berries Company, which was very helpful for us to get an idea of what's happening, understand the blueberry markets and everything. They were very helpful in the initial stage of our project development. And then UGA Extension would definitely help us to connect with the Georgia Blueberry Growers Association. And also they allowed us to go and conduct a survey during their field demo day. And then my lab member at Forest Sustainability Lab, my friends, and then my family back home. And then thank you all of you.
I have we have 10-15-minute time for questions. If you have questions, you can ask now. Anybody brave enough? Yeah, go ahead.
That was a great talk, Suraj. One thing I was thinking about, with the profitability of blueberries being so much higher, I'm wondering, why you think having more incentives for forestry is going to be able to convince them to maintain their land use in forestry, and if maybe from an ecosystem services perspective, if it might not be better to try to figure out how to do blueberries better, incentivizing agroforestry or riparian buffers or whatever it is, but directing incentives more towards improving blueberry production rather than forestry.
That's a good, that's a good question, because initially when we got the reason, those two bar graphs are so different, even cash incentives will not match that, right? So it will not fulfill that returns that they are getting from. But this is market driven. Blueberry is market driven, and then as blueberry is market driven, there is a high risk on it. And then in future, they might lose, they are for growing blueberries, they need a $6,000 per acre per year. But for growing loblolly or planting, doing forestry, they might not need that much amount of money, right? So there is a high chance of, there's a high risk on blueberry industry. But what we are looking from, as I'm a forestry student and a little bit biased towards forestry conservation, what I'm seeing is that there are other motivations factors that will encourage landowners to remain within the forestry land because they already have the forestry land. We need to hold them on there instead of fulfilling the gaps. Yes, we will not able to bring them the land that have been already converted into blueberries to the forestry because we can, there is no, I don't see any incentives program that will fulfill that gap. But if we come up with incentives program that will encourage them to remain within the existing forest land, then we are protecting more. Like for example, one of the landowners in southern Georgia, in Bacon County, after I talked with him, and then it was a very good talk, like for an hour, and then he decided that he will do the rotation of his land. So for 12 years, he will divide his land into 4 compartments, and then plant blueberries on 2 compartments and plant loblolly on 2 compartments, and then do the rotation over there after every 24 years, so that his land have a blueberry, so he's getting benefit from there. He's getting more money per year, but at the same time, he have a forest land too. So those are the things like we can work on to hold the landowners on the forest activities or land use instead of giving money and then ask them like, hey, come back. Because like landowners, like blueberry landowners, like they never see, if they are growing blueberries, they never see forest land as a viable options or alternate against the blueberries. So that's why they are converting to the new land use, because they see that, okay, like market is competitive with blueberries, they have to compete with Florida market, which is the big competitor of Georgia blueberries. So they have a similar type of market window. And then these blueberries from Mexico, now these small landowners are in a threat of like high risk. And then when we were visiting this Superior Pine, like they were telling us that earlier in early 2000, 2005, 6, like lots of small landowners converted their forest land into blueberries, like 50 acres or 60 acres or 100 acres. Now, like those landowners are not growing blueberries on that land, because 50 acres of blueberry is not enough to compete with the landowners who themselves have like a $1.5 million harvesters, or the one who have their own chilling machine or the facilities, right? They can't compete with them. So we need to, but for those landowners who have a 50 acres of forest land or whatever, if we give them a little bit of benefit, they will say, oh, okay, like I want to be in the forest itself.
Thanks, Suraj, for a very long answer. Okay. Anybody else? Yeah.
Yeah, in chapter 2, you had a figure up that was projecting like suitability for blueberry crops, and you were looking at like District 5 in the far southeast Georgia. I just didn't know if you thought that same projection could be extended beyond that district, if that would hold true elsewhere, and is this just something that like the land in southeast Georgia is really great for blueberries and it's kind of a perfect storm scenario, or is this something that you see that's going to kind of grow throughout the southeast?
No, it will be different because the blueberry is very picky on soil types and climatic conditions. Like I said, soil like chilling hours should be more than 600. So other land might not provide that amount of chilling hours per year. And at the same time, soil pH and then permeability and soil drainage. So the other area might not be suitable for that. If it was based on other socioeconomic factors, I would say yes, maybe. Cool. But as it is more like based on this land. So, and then if you see, from my 3rd chapter, there's a figure where I have mentioned, like it's in a paper, okay, not in presentation. So I have shown distribution of existing blueberry orchards, and then it confined within this District 5. That's why I said like more than 97% of blueberry plants are in District 5. Okay. They might have tried in other region, but I think like it didn't work out. So,
like, well, I think 1% of the land you had as like really low suitability for blueberry, and it was all concentrated kind of along a vertical gradient near the bottom. Is that like a specific landmark or like a river basin?
That was maybe Okefenokee swampy area because of that maybe.
Oh, there's a small hill there. That's right. So it's a different in that.
Yeah, just like a very specific.
Mm-hmm.
Ridge.
Yeah.
It's a ridge basically.
But people are growing blueberries in Athens too. If you go to farmers market, you will see some blueberry growers there, and we have blueberry orchards in here. There are different varieties and everything, so things are changing.
A lot of research is happening too.
Yeah. Especially on hybrids and everything.
Anybody else? Yeah.
I want to talk to you more later about like the gopher tortoise suitability stuff, because we have some of that going on too. But with that species in particular, and with like longleaf, kind of going back to the graph that Kay pointed out, like there's a lot of other values, not just economic for longleaf, and there's a lot of other initiatives right now going on, like range-wide, region-wide initiatives. And I'm thinking about the Working Lands for Wildlife program. Did you like? I have a feeling that so that's like geared towards private lands, and I have a feeling it's not profitable enough for private lands. But the goal is to do what you're saying, like convince people it's worth it to keep their forests intact and try and make it so they can do a little bit of forestry, but not, you know, maybe clear cutting for blueberries. Did you encounter that program specifically?
No.
Okay.
I didn't consider that one, but I would like to talk with you later and then see if I can incorporate that.
It's like the gopher tortoise is a key species that they're focused on, and definitely in that area. So there's these initiatives that are sort of focused on sort of trying to accomplish some of the same goals. But I guess the other question I had, unrelated, in the last chapter that you talked about, can you describe a little bit more? I was unsure, like there were two groups that seem to overlap a little bit. So there's like the profit motivated one and the opportunistic one.
Yes.
So what's the difference there?
So for profit motivated landowners, it's extensively profit. They don't want to, like they want to do blueberries to get money. But for opportunistic, they see the value of land in blueberries. So they see the opportunity of market over their blueberries market. They see they have the opportunity instances in the blueberry market instead of just like a profit making like, oh, I want money anyhow. Instead of that, like they see opportunistic owners sees value of their land, high value of their land in blueberry than forestry. So that was a very complicated, because like, as I said, that PQ methods will not give you a title, right? Like, okay, this is here. It'll be so easy. So you have to come up with a story from those different statements that was significantly loaded by different factors, right? So earlier I was confused, like, it's same, like, but like, no, like these landowners from the outfield visit and then what they responded, like on a survey, like what with the Q methods, it's the one of the good thing is that it will ask us to do the survey after their sorting, and then they will say that, okay, I am putting this statement over here because I see these things. So at the same time, we are incorporating their response, you know, like not a structured response, but informal discussion. So those are the landowners who see the value of their land in blueberry better than forestry, but the profit motivated are like, money, I need money, forget about family, forget about everything, money is everything.
So I think you can rename them as a value seeker instead of.
Yes, that's a good idea. Yeah, they seek value of their land.
So that also differentiate between kind of overlapping names as of now.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody else?
I got one more. How did you pick scenario A and scenario B?
Just like scenario and scenario B, like double.
Yeah, like what were your motivations behind like the specific choices that you made to project forward what that would look like in 15, 30 years as far as like twofold increase, fourfold increase? So
like the way that landowners are converting from, like they have converted land from 1,860 hectares in 2000 to like 17,000 hectares. I think that will be the continue, and at the same time, now like because of these different market board or whatever, they have like a Georgia grown labeling and everything. So people are more interested on getting their products into that one. So there is a group of landowners who are big enough to change the market. So they are ready to convert their land. Like there was one landowner who was like, oh, I'm going to convert 500 acres of forest land into blueberries, particularly forest land into blueberries within 2-3 years, you know. So from the field visit and then the literature review and everything, that like we just want to see like how it will convert.
Cool. There's a table in the dissertation if you have put on a presentation just to say how things differ across these 4 types, right?
Yeah.
They're totally different animals. Yeah. Or species, not animals. Yeah. Anybody else? Okay, thanks, Suraj. So no other request of people to leave the room, including Suraj, and Suraj, I will call you back. Thanks for coming, I appreciate that.
Can we put down the presentation so I can see the other members?
I have a